Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You're now welcome to your return to seats. Well, on assignment by the Botswana Stock Exchange and in my capacity as Master of Ceremony, I'm very proud to acknowledge your esteemed presence, Your Excellency, Dr. Mokwetsi Elegaret Masisi. My name is Oradile Giselle Gebakile. Welcome to the official opening of the Asea conference and day one of panel discussions, plenary sessions, and special presentations. So how privileged are we to be gathered here on the grounds of God's best artistry, here on the banks of the Chobe River, truly standing out as one of gorgeous Kasane's best attributes. So Tomo Amo Chila Mokasane, Nana Kumo Mokasane, Tomo Tambula Mokasane, Wamokelesepile Mokasane, the beautiful tourism gem that you and I get to call home until Wednesday. She is known as the preferred meeting place of giants, the meeting point of 4 of Africa's great countries, the junction of 2 mighty rivers, the home of multitudes of majestic wildlife, the place where heads of African states gathered for the Elephant Summit, the place where glamorous Hollywood couples meet to remarry, where British royalty and First World lords quietly slip into holiday in luxury, the place where champions of African capital markets converge. This is the Asea Conference official opening. Her task today is to deliver an introduction of our guests. So come over to you, my lady.
Thank you, Madam Director of Ceremonies. Good morning, esteemed ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to introduce to you the dignitaries that are gathered here amongst us today in our small town of Kasane, our small city of Kasane. Mr. Dwengilizo has made it. He says, don't walk around, this is dangerous, but yes, you still do walk. There's nothing you can do, you still have to walk. Anyway, let me not waste time and straight away go to the introductions, starting with His Excellency, Dr. Mokwetsi Eric Gabezi Masisi. And the Chairman of the Board of Directors, Botswana Stock Exchange, Lieutenant General Ewoko Masire. Amongst us, we also have Asea President and Chief Executive Officer of Casablanca Stock Exchange, Mr. Karim Haji. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The World Bank Representative and Special Envoy to SADC, Xavier Furtado. We have the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Honorable Dr. Kapelo Manseka. And coming back even more home, Honorable Machana Ronald Shamukuni. Let me also introduce to you the Governor of the Bank of Botswana, Mr. Moses Pelayo. The CEO of Botswana Stock Exchange, Mr. Kapelo Seole. Thank you very much.
Well, if you were to attempt to match up against our next speaker, much will be required of you, sir or madam. You're going to have to graduate from the East African School of Aviation, the US Air Force Command and Staff College, acquire a BSc degree from Troy State University and an MBA from University of Southern Queensland, join your nation's defense force and hold the record of being the only member of original intake 3 decades later, be the longest serving Air Arm Commander, have over 4,000 flying hours, be promoted to the rank of Lieutenant General and Commander of the Defense Force, induct the very first female officers in the force, and make it very clear that no special treatment will be granted. You'll also need to be bestowed with the Presidential Honor, Duty Code Order Medal, amongst several honors. You will also need to establish a foundation whose objective is to provide support and advocacy for vulnerable women and children, and you will also need to be on the boards of the National Airline, founding member of the SADC Aviation Committee and Aviation Authority of your country. And somewhere in there, you will need to also manage to become a father, a husband, a community leader, mentor to many, national elder. Ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the host's welcome remarks, the chairman of the Botswana Stock Exchange, Lieutenant General Debo Kata Masiye.
Thank you very much for those warm remarks. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Botswana, Mokgweetsi Masisi, Asea President and Chief Executive Officer of the Casablanca Stock Exchange, Karim Haji, and your Executive Committee, World Bank Country Representative and Special Envoy to SADC, Xavier Bocaro, Honorable Ministers, Honorable MPs, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good morning. I'm honored to welcome you, our distinguished guests, at the 23rd Annual Asia Conference, which is one of the most coveted financial market conferences on the African continent. And most importantly, to welcome you to Kasane. They didn't mention that Kasane is next to two of the world's most renowned heritage sites, the Victoria Falls and the Okavango Delta. And of course, it is also the gateway to the Children National Park, which is home to the largest elephant head in the world. So if you do get an elephant knocking on your door, know that that is the problem of wildlife-human conflict that we have to contend with on a daily basis. Your Excellency, the African Securities Exchange Association is a premier association of leading exchanges in Africa who have come together to develop member exchanges and provide a platform for networking and strategizing on how to develop markets on the African continent. This conference is organized every year in different member countries. The association has a full membership of 25 exchanges serving 32 economies in Africa. It brings together over 300 delegates from 30 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to extend a very special welcome to our guest of honor, His Excellency, our owner of this great republic, a brand new out-of-the-box President Mokgweetsi Masisi. Also a special welcome to these members of cabinet who are also spanking you out of the box. You know, it was exactly a month ago, on the 25th of last month, that His Excellency and his team were declared winners of our general elections. Congratulations, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, your participation at this event is an important gesture, particularly if, as a country, we intend to realize inclusive and broad-based economic growth driven by a robust private sector. We also want to extend a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, at this conference, who is World Bank Group Country Representative and Special Envoy to SADC, Xavier Furtado. Mr. Furtado has always participated in various financial market fora and contributed immensely to the various market development initiatives, particularly with regards to the local bond market. Our special thanks also go to the Asea President and CEO of the Casablanca Stock Exchange and his executive committee for giving us the opportunity to host this event. We appreciate the level of confidence you have in the Casablanca Stock Exchange. And I must also take this time to applaud my CEO, who, when he mentioned that he wanted to host this conference, I thought he was nuts. I said, young man, don't buy more than you can chew. But I must be thankful to him that today we are here, and I am told we are off to a very good start. Congratulations, CEO. A special welcome also goes to all the delegates from across the continent, and I hope you will enjoy your stay here. The theme of this year's conference, Building Resilient African Capital Markets, comes at a time when the African economy is presented with tremendous growth opportunities, as emerging markets have experienced an influx of foreign direct investment. The strengthened collaborative efforts among African security exchanges and market participants have resulted in monumental achievements and innovative solutions in the African financial landscape and the overall economy. This is evidenced by the achievements as reported in the recently released Absa African Financial Markets Index 2019 report, which highlights some important achievements such as more flexible exchange rates, improving policy responsiveness, and shock absorption capacity throughout the continent, as well as major opportunities yet to be realized. The report is proof that Africa's economic successes have often been supported by financial market development, which in turn has been supported by improved economic management and stronger institutions. As we engage with investors from across the world, we often note a common requirement regarding what they want to see in their market before they can invest. Primarily, investors are looking for three things: commitment to sustainable growth, strong corporate governance structures in both public and private sector, innovations and resilience in the face of an ever-changing business environment. This conference aims to examine these important elements and provide analysis and insight into how they can be further bolstered to position African markets as preferred destinations for domestic and global inflow. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, indeed, a platform such as this offers an opportunity for financial experts, market participants, and entrepreneurs across Africa to share ideas on how the African market can be further improved, opportunity capture, and investment flows channeled to our economies. I therefore look forward to hearing discussions on SME financing through capital markets in Africa and the various ways this can be implemented effectively, as well as how financial services can be a vehicle for financial inclusion. These are two important issues. First, a strong and dynamic private sector development is key for growth on the African continent and can unlock jobs and opportunities for better lives and is therefore instrumental in attaining our shared development objectives. Secondly, advancing financial inclusion in African markets will be a critical success factor in the development of our markets in terms of increasing broad-based economic participation, increasing income inequality, and in the process contributing to sustainable development goals. Ladies and gentlemen, stock exchanges have to be part of community development, and I'm pleased to inform you that the Botswana Stock Exchange was honored as the best exchange for educational initiatives by SRFP for the flagship Senior Secondary Schools Finance and Investment competition that we hold annually. I'm well comforted that other stock exchanges prioritize financial education and African stock exchanges consistently learn from each other regarding such practices and others. With these few remarks, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the board of the Botswana Stock Exchange, I would like to express our appreciation to all the intermediaries, stakeholders, sponsors, delegates, the executive committee of Asea, and the Botswana Stock Exchange management for their concerted effort in making this event possible. The fruits of what we are embarking on today will truly be realized in days, months, and years to come. And the other generations will benefit from our efforts. Once again, let me welcome everyone to the 23rd Annual Asea Conference and wish you all a rewarding, joyful experience. Thank you. Pula, pula de frog. If you want
to the podium to Asea 2019, Karim Haji, President of the African Securities Exchanges Association and CEO of Casablanca Stock Exchange.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Botswana, Dr. Mokwetsi Masisi, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Botswana Stock Exchange, Lieutenant General Masire, and your board, World Bank country representative and special envoy to SADC, Xavier Furtado, Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Dr. Tapelo Masheka, Governor of the Bank of Botswana, Dr. Moses Palearo, Kasane and Village Leadership, Kosi Tuso Wateo, heads of international organizations, Chief Executive Officer of the Botswana Stock Exchange, Tapelo Siole, management of the Botswana Stock Exchange, CEOs of African Securities Exchanges, CEO of NEFI-RA, representatives of capital markets from across the continent and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 23rd Asea Conference, the flagship conference of the Securities Exchanges Association of African Exchanges. Thank you all for traveling all the way from long distances and joining us at this foremost capital markets gathering at the continent. The Asea Conference has now become a recognized meeting of minds that brings together champions and enthusiasts of the African social and economic development. We have witnessed a lot of policy conversations taking place during Asea conferences, as well as other Asea events. These conferences have contributed to tangible results, while others still aspire to do so. In previous Asea conferences, we've had the privilege of hearing from distinguished speakers, such as Vice Presidents of the Republics of Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Rwanda, as well as Dr. Adesina Akinwumi, President of the African Development Bank. Today, at the 23rd edition of the Asea Conference, we have the privilege and the utmost honor to have among us His Excellency Dr. Masisi, President of the Republic of Botswana, as our chief guest. Dr. Masisi, my warm thanks to you on behalf of Asea representative for accepting to to host this conference in Kasane, this beautiful town of Kasane, honoring us with your presence. And I take this opportunity to commend you for your re-election at the helm of Botswana, and wish you well in your tenure. Please join me in commending His Excellency. Botswana is not only a country that abounds in natural beauty, but a country that has also garnered a lot of attention and interest, both regionally and internationally, due to its unruffled yet very progressive nature. The World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report projects that by the year 2020, Botswana will be ranked 8th in Africa and 78th globally. And this is supported by other factors such as adherence to the rule of law, of which in 2018, Botswana was ranked 44 out of 126 countries ranked globally by the World Justice Project. These global recognitions can be seen and felt at home, as the country is one of the highest GDP per capita in Africa, with approximately $8,000 per capita. Also, need to mention that Botswana is one of only 2 countries on the continent with investment grade. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of Botswana is yet to be told. In 2013, this country ventured into exporting processed diamonds, and in the same year, it realized a total revenue of 6.6 billion pula, which is approximately $660 million. Today, diamond revenues make up 1/3 of the country's GDP, and it has been translated into better infrastructure and social development projects. It has also significantly elevated the livelihood of the Tswana people. This is quite commendable and encouraging for a country nestled in a region tainted with an array of challenges such as extreme poverty, unemployment, insecurity, and political fragility, among others. On the other hand, it also speaks to the strength of the economy, which embodies the theme of this year's conference: building resilient African capital markets. This theme will remind us, as market operators and business owners alike, of the most effective tactics we can employ to synchronize our social and economic mandates so that we remain relevant to the African citizens, especially in these disruptive times. In an interview with the OECD, Donald Kaberuka, the former president of the AFDB, stated that 2 key policy changes required to advance the continent's development include job creation and wealth inclusion. If these policy proposals by one of the most sought-after leaders in Africa are anything to go by, then allow me to also propose 2 ways in which the stock exchanges in Africa can transform these into tangible results for the real African economies. Number 1, the population of Africa has grown from 944 million people in 2007 to an estimated 1.3 billion this year. This number is expected to almost double by the year 2050, with approximately 70% of the population which will be under 25 years of age. Of course, this population will have a growing need for services, jobs, and economic growth. In contrast, data from the African Development Bank suggests that 10 to 12 million youth enter the workforce each year, and 1/3 are unfortunately unemployed or discouraged. Another 1/3 are vulnerably employed, and only 1 in 6 is in salary employment. The consequences of youth unemployment is pervasive and severe, not only in Africa, but also in the entire world. I believe that the most immediate and indigenous solution to this impediment is by promoting the small and medium-sized enterprises, which represent the livelihood of our economies. They contribute 60% of total employment, sometimes up to 90% in certain countries, and at least 40% of national GDP in emerging economies. However, this sector continues to face the same traditional challenges of access to agile and sustainable financing, which resilient stock exchanges can so easily provide. In 2018, Asea commissioned a study into the SME sector among our members, and results showed that there are well under 300 SMEs listed on the respective exchanges in Africa, which is far too small compared to the needs of our respective countries. This is food for thought for all of us. Number two, according to the World Bank, only 33% of Africans have access to sanitation, only 40% have access to electricity, and 66% to clean water. Currently, sub-Saharan Africa alone accounts for almost 50% of the world's extreme poor, and should this persist, by the year 2030, 9 out of 10 of the world's extreme poor will be living in our continent. What underpins so much of this are the practical challenges of filling the African infrastructure funding gap, which is estimated at around $170 billion a year. Public funding alone will not be sufficient to make a dent to the state of poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, the capital markets remain the most viable source of finance for investments that are either too long-term or too risky for commercial banks. Given a chance, the 36 securities exchanges in Africa, serving 43 economies, can facilitate capital to fund this increasing infrastructure deficit. These exchanges represent over 1,550 listed companies with total traded value of over $3.2 trillion a year, including fixed income. These markets have grown steadily and have demonstrated their capability to create prosperity on the continent through long-term capital raising for social projects that ultimately can reduce poverty and improve the standards of living in our continent. A good example is AFDB that successfully raised 12.9 billion naira, approximately $80 million, through its maiden local currency issuance on the Nigerian capital market. The proceeds of the successful issuance went towards funding local SMEs and infrastructure projects requiring local currency financing. Your Excellency, in line with the need to identify avenues of long-term capital raising, the Association this year adopted 5 key strategic pillars. One of them being enhancing liquidity in African markets, which seeks to promote stock exchange businesses as catalysts of wealth creation through privatization of state-owned enterprises. In the coming days, Asea will partner with global leading institutions to advocate policymakers on the crucial importance of privatizing some SOE companies in the local capital markets that most lead to a country's real economy. I will personally purpose to ensure that these efforts reach the relevant authorities in Botswana for their consideration and benefit towards a more prosperous economy. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it is not all gloom and doom for our beloved continent. As you know, where there are challenges, lie even greater opportunities. Africa today is home to the largest free trade zone in the world, the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. The AFCFTA offers investors with a market of 1.2 billion people and a combined GDP of $2.5 trillion. If harnessed well, this free trade area will enhance competitiveness at the industry and enterprise level through exploiting opportunities for scale production, continental market access, and better reallocation of resources. At Asea, we are seizing this opportunity by pressing on with the Africa Exchanges Linkage Project, which is a flagship initiative of Asea to facilitate cross-border trading and settlement of securities. As you all know, intra-African trade has been historically low. Africa is actually one of the least integrated continents in the world, with only 15% inter-trade within the continent. Makes it the lowest integrated continent on the planet. The African Linkage Project will connect 7 exchanges from Morocco to South Africa, including Egypt, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Nairobi, and Mauritius. In parting shot, I wish to encourage each one of us to keenly participate in the debates and presentations on what makes up a resilient capital market, the opportunities as well as the challenges present, and how should African exchanges reposition themselves to fully contribute to the economic growth of our continent and to the job creation which is much needed. Thank you very much for your attention.
rona bana ba lona di itumela thata ha re utlwa gore dipuisano tsa lona di tla fokotsa tsa sotlego mme di oketse bontle jwa itsholelo ya setšhaba sa Aforika. Ka leboga batho. I don't mind a round of applause. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a moment you've been waiting for, so allow me to not be the one to stand between you and such a moment. All I will do is invite you to join me in rising to receive at the presidential podium our fresh out the box President, His Excellency Dr. Makwetsi Eric Masisi.
The Honourable Minister of Finance and Economic Development and Member of Parliament for Lobatse, Dr. Matseka, the Assistant Minister of Tertiary Education, Research, Science and Technology, and Member of Parliament for this place, Honourable Machana Shamkuni, the Governor of the Bank of Botswana, Mr. Pelaelo, the Chief Executive Officer, World Federation of Exchanges, the representative of the African Development Bank, Chairman of the Board of Directors of Botswana Stock Exchange, and members of your board, Chairman African Securities Exchange Association, Mr. Karim Haji, and your board, the World Bank Country Representative to Botswana and Special Envoy to SADC, Mr. Xavier Hurtado, the IMF representative, the Chief Executive Officer of the Non-Bank Financial Institutions Regulatory Authority, Mr. Ramasedi, Chief Executive Officer of Botswana Stock Exchange, Mr. Tseole, representatives of African Stock Exchanges here present, media, fraternity representatives, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. It is indeed an honor for me to address you this morning at this important conference, being the 23rd Annual African Securities Exchanges Association, Asea, where Africa's greatest minds in finance and economic development are gathered to reflect and share ideas on how to build stronger African market economies that facilitate the efficient flow of capital for economic development. I wish to preface my remarks by extending, on my own behalf and behalf of the people of Botswana, a very warm welcome to all of you, particularly our visitors from other African countries. Permit me also to share with you that today marks the beginning of our 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And I would wish, as one of your resolutions at this conference, you too would stand up to be counted as among those who abhor this deplorable practice, menace and cancerous behavior in Botswana and many other places. I want to assure you that during your short visit to Botswana, you realize that we take pride in showcasing our beautiful country, which is endowed with mesmerizing flora and fauna, as you must have already been teased about. Therefore, I recommend that you find time to go on some game drives, some boat cruises, so that you can fully appreciate what Kasane has to offer. One is never enough. You are invited in advance to come back again. Similarly, Botswana are well known for their warmth, humility, and hospitality, and as such, I'm confident that your stay in our country will be a remarkable and rewarding experience. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the theme for today's conference, Building Resilient African Capital Markets, is appropriate because the importance of capital markets to the African and global economic landscape cannot be overemphasized. Capital markets are a platform to the real economy and the financial economy, which allow the African continent to realize positive outcomes such as improved products and services, as well as the creation of capital raising opportunities for individuals to improve their lives and that of fellow citizens. Distinguished guests, in most African nations today, legislators have found it fit to create a conducive environment for capital market development through policies that support businesses, as well as the enactment of laws that enable the national stock exchanges to grow and become less dependent on government support. Furthermore, African governments continue to issue securities directly and indirectly to support capital formation and institutional development. The government securities markets in particular provide an example of the variety of choices available among the various support options for market development. Among the more important benefits deriving from a well-developed government securities market are the setting of benchmark yields for corporate bond markets, enhancing market infrastructure and skills, as well as setting regulatory and supervisory standards. In this regard, I'm grateful to note that African countries have come together to form robust regional capital market platforms, such as the Bourse Regional de Vaurier Mobilisé. How was my French? BVRM, which is the regional stock exchange common to the countries of the West African Economic Monetary Union, and the Committee of the Southern African Development Community Stock Exchange. These groupings have proven that collaboration leads to rapid capital market development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is often stated that our securities market activities remain less developed than banking activities, even though most countries have established the basic legal and regulatory framework required for securities issuance and trading many years ago. In particular, it is noted that our markets do not yet perform the key functions of providing an alternative to bank funds for debt and equity finance to the private sector, which would offer a meaningful secondary market in ownership of securities. I therefore challenge you as industry players and leaders to note the serious shortcomings and apply yourself to turn this around. I am also informed that the usual practice is that in order to gauge the relative success in developing securities market activities, it is important to assess capitalization and liquidity ratios in equity markets. Where these remain low in the face of significant advances in macroeconomic stability, the key reasons stated are lack of consistent development of effective regulation and institutions, inadequate financial disclosure, as well as insufficient transparency in trading. Therefore, during this important conference, we must discuss the main problems and policy challenges in advancing securities market development. Secondly, we should shed more light on the possibilities and options available to promote the development of efficient and transparent markets through the identification of different policy approaches chosen by individual countries on the continent and in our peer markets globally. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, based on the experience of fellow African countries and research by Asea, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, several major problem areas in capital market development have been identified and need further analysis and exchange of views by experts and policymakers in attendance during this conference. These challenges have been identified as follows: the threat to transparency and standards of disclosure in equity markets and minority shareholder rights by the emergence of insider systems, the need for further growth of institutional as well as the retail sectors in securities markets in transition economies and their implications on market development. There is also the conflict between trends towards spontaneous market fragmentation and ambitions to centralize trading, among others. I also believe that several of these challenges are in many respects the same for emerging markets as in well-established markets. We are at the same time concerned with the special angle brought about by the transition stage that the African continent is currently experiencing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as developed countries' populations age, technologies diffuse around the world, and trade and investment barriers continue to fall. Therefore, investors in the more advanced markets have few options but to continue to diversify into emerging and frontier markets. It is therefore critical for us to ensure that efficient systems are put in place to cater for the successful deployment of capital into our African economies. And this includes effective policies, disclosure requirements, and laws that attract more capital flows in the future. Distinguished guests, the government of Botswana has come up with action plans and strategies as outlined in our National Development Plan 11, one of which is to create a conducive business environment as well as to support the growth of SMEs and the informal sector. This is because we believe that wealth creation based on citizen economic empowerment can assist in growing household and business sector incomes, which in turn will enable rapid economic transformation. The strategy will be further enhanced if our capital markets are able to facilitate capital raising for SMEs across different sectors and serve as an efficient platform for investment by households for wealth creation. Indeed, African securities exchanges continue to prioritize the promotion of entrepreneurship development and inclusion of SMEs into the mainstream economy by formulating SME-focused listing platforms and a conducive regulatory framework for this purpose. I am therefore reliably informed that a study undertaken by Asea, SME Facilitation Working Group in 2018, uncovered that at least 15 security exchanges in Africa have established SME boards, development growth boards, venture capital boards, and small enterprise segment boards. This should be encouraged and commended by all stakeholders. I am optimistic that this conference will offer an in-depth analysis of African capital market development challenges and bottlenecks, as well as provide practical solutions to the different issues prevalent in our markets today. I'm also confident that Asea, which I am informed has 25 members, will continue to be a key collaborative entity that provides insights and impactful initiatives to its member exchanges. In concluding my remarks, distinguished guests, I wish you to be internationally competitive so as to raise the bar of our contributions to the development of capital markets on our continent. I therefore wish you some fruitful and successful deliberations, as well as a pleasant and memorable stay in Botswana. Distinguished guests, it is now my singular honor and privilege to declare officially the 23rd African Securities Exchanges Association Conference officially open. I thank you for your attention.
We're officially opened now, and it's time to get into the first keynote presentation. Building Resilient African Capital Markets. Javier Furtado, who has known Botswana very well since 2017, I believe it is the World Bank country representative to Botswana and special envoy to SADC. Javier, over to you, sir.
Director of Ceremonies, thank you very much for that kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Director of Ceremonies, let me say one thing. When I grow up, I would like to be like you. Rest assured. Rest assured. I hope one day to have your presence on the stage. Let me, of course, first of all, acknowledge the presence of His Excellency, Dr. Mokgweetsi Masisi, the President of this Republic of Botswana. Also, let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Dr. Asea. In addition, of course, the Governor of the Bank of Botswana, my friend Moses Toledo. Thank you very much. As well, let me acknowledge the presence of the CEO of Infifira, who I understand is here, Venus. In addition, the Chairman, of course, of the Botswana Stock Exchange Board, Lieutenant General of the Global Unit. Of course, the head of the Botswana Stock Exchange, the CEO, my friend, my ally, the fellow, great to see you here. Honorable Member of Parliament, of course, and Assistant Minister, Mr. Machana. Thank you very much. Chief Executive Officers of Stock Exchanges, Mr. Karim Haji, welcome. Thank you very much. Chief Executive Officers of BSE listed companies, pension funds and fund managers, CEOs, managing directors, founders, and other members of the business community, and of course our friends here in the media fraternity. Allow me to say all protocol observed in the interest of time. Let me first of all start by saying what an honor it is for me personally, but also on behalf of the World Bank Group to provide this keynote address. And let me thank both the Botswana Stock Exchange and Asea for the opportunity. I also want to just acknowledge, as a short detour, the point that His Excellency made on gender-based violence. Your Excellency, let me acknowledge, if not indeed applaud you for making that observation. Because as long as we're talking about resilience, nothing is going to be resilient if half the continent's population is fearing for either its safety or its life. So, once again, Mr. President, thank you. I would also like to congratulate the BSE and the ASEA for the theme of today's event. As some have already acknowledged, there are incredible storm clouds looming on the global economic horizon. They also do affect Africa, of course. The timing of this particular event and the chosen theme is just perfect. Let me begin by first of all acknowledging some of the progress that we have seen on the continent in terms of capital market development. For indeed, as Mr. Hyde mentioned, it's not all good and evil. In fact, from our perspective, it's remarkable to see the amount of progress that has emerged very recently. About a decade ago, the continent was characterized by almost a near absence of functioning and effective capital markets. But we can see that that is in fact no longer exactly the case. Some notable examples include in Nigeria, once again, another example in Nigeria, the recent issuance of its first 30-year bond, which significantly extended the yield curve and of course was 4 times oversubscribed. Similarly, in Rwanda, that country's first issue of a 20-year treasury bill, which was just took place in August of this year, it too was oversubscribed by a wide variety and diverse group of investors. With technical support from the World Bank, South Africa, just over 1 year ago, launched its first electronic trading platform for government securities. And just a few months before that, Mauritius did something very, very similar. And in both jurisdictions, we expect that these institutional innovations will bring greater efficiencies and effectiveness to their respective capital markets. We see great things happening in Angola, and we expect over the coming months some key initial public offerings on its stock exchange, given the privatization of several state-owned enterprises. Elsewhere, in Cameroon, the Douala Stock Exchange has recently merged with the Central African Securities Exchange based in Gabon, which we take as a very important first step towards integrating that region's capital markets. And following on that exercise, my colleagues from the World Bank and our friends from the African Development Bank are provided what we hope will be necessary technical assistance to ensure the true unification of the capital market in that sub-region. In East Africa, Kenya continues to lead the way with the issuance of its first collateralized and fully secured green bond. This non-sovereign issuance comes on the heels of several other green bond issuances in important markets such as Namibia, Seychelles, and Nigeria. Let's take a moment to applaud the progress, ladies and gentlemen, indeed. For indeed, this progress has been made possible by the hard work of many people, some of whom are not here, but I know many of whom are in this room. And indeed, this is great progress. Now, I would not be from the World Bank if I also did not tell you that there is significant work ahead as well, and that there are significant challenges. So, in all honesty, let's also look at what's happening, or what needs to happen in terms of developing the region's capital markets to their fullest extent. There are a range of structural issues, which I think many of you know better than I do, concerning macroeconomic instability, the high level of informality, which Mr. Hyde has already mentioned, low savings, poor market infrastructure, and the list goes on. Here, let me first of all emphasize an important concern that we see from the World Bank Group, which is in some jurisdictions the high level of sovereign indebtedness. In fact, on the continent, 16 sub-Saharan African countries are either at risk of debt distress, or indeed are already suffering from high debt distress. And in fact, even in some upper middle income or middle income countries, we see levels of debt that either are approaching or in fact in some cases exceeding risk thresholds. And I don't need to tell you how important this is to the effective development of the capital market. As we can see, some countries are doing better than others, which means overall the continent is unable to move forward as quickly as possible as it can in terms of developing and fully exploiting capital markets to their fullest potential. These issues manifest themselves in a variety of ways, including low liquidity. Some countries go for years without new issuances, which means there effectively is no yield curve. And this is, of course, exacerbated by the limited supply, not just of issuers, but of high-quality issuers in these markets. The state of several of Africa's capital markets is further reflected in some of the statistics that we see from the World Bank Group. One is, as I already mentioned, low savings to GDP ratios. But another one that might be more important and far more telling is market capitalization to GDP as a percentage. Other than South Africa, market capitalization to GDP remains very low, on average below 30% across the continent. And some of you know that, in fact, normally we would look for this ratio to be between 75 to 90% in order to have some assurance that the capital market is, in fact, truly reflective of the nature of that economy. In Nigeria in 2017, this ratio was approaching 10%. On the other hand, in South Africa, this ratio exceeds 350%. But even if you look further afield, outside of the continent, in Malaysia, market capitalization to GDP is now approaching 145%. And in India, it's approaching 90%. I cite these numbers not for their own sake. I cite these numbers because they tell a story. And the story is about unrealized potential. The unrealized potential of capital markets on this continent to truly transform lives, to address the kinds of pressing development issues that Green mentioned in his remarks. Thank you for that. This suggests that several capital markets on the continent remain undervalued, remain underpenetrated, and in fact, there's a very important reform agenda here to ensure that capital markets play the catalytic role that they can play in order to support private sector-led growth and development. Another consideration is that the structure of the economy and the corporate sector is another important consideration in most African economies. And here, we know that many African economies have a preponderance of either small, medium-sized enterprises, or even companies that exist in what we call the informal sector. According to my colleagues at the IMF, between 2010 and 2017, approximately 34% of the GDP in most sub-Saharan African economies was accounted for by small to medium-sized enterprises and informal economies. A shift from the informal to the formal will obviously take time. My point is not to wait. And I can see the nature agrees with me as well. But my point here is not to wait. My point here is to consider the institutional innovations that are necessary in order to ensure that we can create the bridge necessary between SMEs, between the informal sector of the economy, so that they can be connected to capital markets and all the benefits that they bring. Now, let me turn some attention now how to identify some of the key challenges and also some of the success. Maybe outlining a bit of a framework, which I hope will be useful, in terms of helping to assess, but also develop capital markets on the continent. I think as we know, when considering capital market development, and in Africa and smaller economies elsewhere, it's important to remember an overarching principle that markets should be built to suit the needs of those players in those markets. And while one size cannot fit all, it is true that there are some basic principles and maybe some basic sequences of events that can be kept in mind. First of all, as we've already alluded, macroeconomic fundamentals are important. Macroeconomic stability is important. This includes, as I already mentioned, the level of indebtedness, the level of gross domestic savings, inflation, as well as interest rates. And there's a related question here, which has become popular once again, let me say, about the role of central banks in this complex arena. Some central banks still choose to focus on inflation targeting. Some have suggested that, in fact, the focus should be on employment. And so this, too, becomes an important consideration when you think about how to develop the capital market and the role of the regulatory environment. The point being is that if these essential preconditions are not met, then certainly capital market development cannot take off. The soundness of the banking and corporate sector must also obviously be taken into consideration. And maybe most importantly, the institutional framework and broader legal and institutional environment should also be evaluated quite rigorously. This would include attention to the efficiency of contract enforcement, the framework for incorporation and insolvency, accounting and audit issues, rules around fair competition, and of course the efficiency of tax policy. A second consideration in this framework, which I would suggest, is to keep in mind specific financing needs of an economy so as to define the capital market development agenda, specifically what would happen in each country. Because as I said earlier, one size cannot fit all. In some countries, as I said, SMEs typically are more bank-oriented. The corporate sector tends to make better use, or maybe more active use, I should say, of the capital market. But we have to go beyond these issues and look more closely at issues around the structure of the corporate sector, including by firm size and sectoral composition. With these basic preconditions in place and trends we hope to be generally moving forward, an initial supply and demand side analysis is then in order. On the demand side, I think the issue, and again, the chairman of the Asea made this point, diversity is key. The diversity of demand is an important consideration. In order to ensure a diverse investor base comprised of both domestic institutional investors, foreign investors, and retail investors with varying timelines in terms of what they seek from the market. An assessment of the investor base would also include the types and size of existing domestic institutional investors, retail, foreign, with a look to identifying the relevant weaknesses that need to be addressed in order to grow that investor base, to grow the demand side of the equation. In addition to demand, of course, is the supply. Specifically, who would be interested in issuing bonds and other instruments on local capital markets? If the pipeline for corporate issuances is limited, it should be determined if this is due to the structure of the corporate market, the size or the number of companies, or the technical issues that might be discouraging corporates from making better use of capital markets. And here the point is that it's not just about quantity, it's also about the quality of that supply. And this is where the issue around corporate governance is of central importance. And let's be frank, what the public is looking for are rules and transparency to ensure that as investors in corporations, their money is not going to be either stolen, lost, misused, and whatever else. The reform effort should also target the development of money in government bond markets. And in my view, this is often overlooked. Because rolling out government bonds, as we do in Botswana with the Bond series, is an important element that can proceed alongside the development of the private capital markets as well. In fact, in the World Bank, we would tend to look upon that as a healthy element of overall capital market development. Ladies and gentlemen, these are obviously not exhaustive comments. I simply offer them some thoughts to fuel your thinking over the next couple of days, to maybe set some parameters on today's discussions. In closing then, let me speak very briefly about what the World Bank Group has been doing in some jurisdictions to help support the development of capital markets. I think some of you will be very familiar with the International Finance Corporation, our private sector entity. Through the IFC's Pan-African Medium-Term Domestic Note Program, IFC has issued local currency bonds in several jurisdictions across the continent and elsewhere in the world. In fact, IFC became the first non-resident issuer in China, India, the Dominican Republic, Nigeria, Peru, closer to home, Zambia, Rwanda, and as some of you might know, more recently, here in Botswana. In 2017, IFC issued its Kalahari bond on the Botswana Stock Exchange. The purpose of the bond was to help support financial inclusion through the domestic banking sector. It is the first publicly issued AAA rated bond in Botswana. IFC became the first non-resident issuer of such debt, leveraging approximately 258 million pula to support financial inclusion through the good offices of the Botswana Building Society. This is just one example, and there are many more like it. Let me summarize by simply saying the World Bank Group is here to help, whether it be in this great republic of Botswana or indeed elsewhere on the continent. As I've tried to impress upon you, this is truly a continental agenda that we hope to bring you forward. Let me once again thank all of you for the opportunity to provide this keynote address. Kela Boha, Rea Boha, and as we like to say in this republic, Hula.
Ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the vote of thanks, Rentapelo Seole, CEO of the Botswana Stock Exchange. Let's welcome a round of applause.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Botswana, Dr. Mokwetsi Erikyabitsi Masisi, Honorable Ministers here present, Dr. Kapelo Maseka, my lecturer at my year 3 University of Botswana, my dear friend, Assistant Minister Shamkuni, our board chairperson, retired Lieutenant General of Asea, members of the board of Botswana Stock Exchange, 7 of them are here. My fellow exco, Asea, from various countries. Our guest speaker, Xavier, thanks for being very supportive as always. My first employer from university, Governor of Bank of Botswana, Mr. Pelaero. Bohoki Bamwezi Wakasani, Bokosi Bomolawodi. And this one is important, my regulator, Mr. Ramasedi. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say all protocol observed. It is indeed an honor and privilege to give a vote of thanks at the end of this first session. And on behalf of Botswana Stock Exchange, the entire hard-working, organizing team at the BSE, the African Stock Exchanges Association Secretariat, on behalf of the board, I wish to extend a hearty thank you to our guest of honor, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Botswana, Dr. Masisi, for gracing this occasion. And like many other speakers before me, let me take this opportunity to also congratulate you for being elected the 5th President of the Republic of Botswana. Congratulations, sir. Some of us who live in this country know very well the build up to the election, how it was. We are fortunate as a nation to have you drive the national agenda that supports business and socio-economic development in Botswana. And we deeply appreciate your undying support for our local capital markets from several years back, when you were even the Vice President. And we have always heeded our call, and we are looking forward for you to grace our future events. On behalf of the Botswana Stock Exchange, I also want to extend my gratitude to the World Bank country representative, Xavier Vitalo. We have always been there for us at the BSE. We really appreciate that, and we're seeing your support cannot go unnoticed. To close to 300 delegate speakers here, it is quite an honor for us and a privilege to host you from all corners of the world. Indeed, when we presented our bid in Nigeria last year that we are bringing the 23rd Asea conference along the river banks of Chole in Botswana, to the BSE team, this is a dream come true, and we really appreciate that you came in large numbers. I know I've attended Asea conferences, and this is one of the most attended conferences in the Asea. Ladies and gentlemen, an event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling a year ago, and it took myself, the team, and the board a lot of effort to put everything together to have a successful conference. And we are also looking for 2 days of fruitful discussions. We have already had 2 days, Mr. President. We started off with 14 stock exchanges in SADC on Saturday morning. And then in the afternoon on Saturday, there was 7 big stock exchanges doing linkages project. And then yesterday morning, we held the executive committee meeting on a boat on the Chole River. We went for 3 hours. The meeting was very successful, very effective. Whenever they saw a hippo, they requested the chairperson of the meeting to adjourn a bit, pictures, which was also very lovely. In the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen,
let me promise you that for the next 2 days, we are going to have an activity, fun-filled, a lot of agenda to be discussed, but also a lot of relaxation in the evening. Starting this evening, we are going to be eating a lot of mopani worms while watching traditional dance also. Last but not the least, I urge all of you to enjoy the atmosphere and the natural beauty in the great town of Kasane. You have been invited to spare some time to do some game drives, do some boat cruises, and explore many other things that our country is offering. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, President, for gracing our occasion. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
At this moment, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to document the giants that gathered here today. That is to say that His Excellency the President of the Republic of Botswana, Dr. Masisi, as well as present cabinet ministers, Asea Exco, BSE Board of Directors, and distinguished guests to be selected and identified by the ushers that are on standby, will now be ushered to the photo set that has been prepared by the Botswana Stock Exchange team to document this moment.